All right, we're diving deep into the world of Dr. Joe Dispenza today.
Oh, yeah.
And wow,
Yeah.
we've got some fascinating excerpts from his interview on the Diary of a CEO YouTube channel.
Oh, awesome.
Have you seen that channel?
I have, yeah. It's really interesting. Some really interesting guests.
Yeah, really interesting guest.
Yeah.
And this one with Dr. Joe Dispenza, I was just like, my mind was blown so many times.
Yeah.
Are you ready to explore how to, actually change your life
Absolutely.
by changing your brain?
Yeah.
Is that even possible?
Well, and you know what's so compelling about Dr. Dispenza is that he's not just like some self-help guru
Right.
spouting these feel-good platitudes.
Yeah.
He's a neuroscientist.
Right.
He's bringing actual scientific evidence to back up these ideas of personal transformation.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I've got to admit, sometimes this stuff can get a little too out there for me.
Yeah.
Can we really rewire our brains? Is that even possible?
Well, let's start with something Dr. Dispenza mentions that really stopped me in my tracks.
Okay.
He says 75 to 90% of our health issues are rooted in emotional stress.
Oh, wow.
That's a staggering statistic.
That's huge.
It makes you wonder, how much control do we actually have over our own well-being?
Wow. That's a lot to process, right? It's like we always hear that stress is bad, but this takes it to a whole other level, right?
Absolutely.
So how does this emotional stress actually translate into physical problems? What's the connection there?
Dr. Dispenza talks about how when we go through a traumatic experience, our brains create this super intense emotional memory.
Right.
And sometimes our bodies keep reliving that event, even if it happened years ago.
Yeah.
It's like we're trapped in a loop, constantly reacting to something that's already passed.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I've definitely experienced that feeling of being triggered by something, and suddenly I'm back in that old emotional state, even if logically I know it's not happening anymore.
Totally.
But how do we break free from that?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Dr. Dispenza introduces this concept.
Okay.
He calls it emotional addiction.
What?
It's like we become hooked on those stress hormones our bodies release when we experience trauma.
Interesting.
And we actually start to seek out situations that reinforce those feelings,
Wow.
even if they're ultimately harmful.
So you're telling me we can be addicted to our own negative emotions?
It's a very real thing.
That's kind of a scary thought.
Yeah.
What does that even look like in real life? Can you give me an example?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract drama or conflict
Yeah.
wherever they go? It's like they're constantly surrounded by chaos.
Oh, right.
Dr. Dispenza would say they might be addicted to the adrenaline rush, the intensity of those negative emotions.
Okay. That's starting to click for me. But what about those of us who aren't necessarily drama magnets, but still struggle with anxiety or fear or sadness?
Yeah.
Is that emotional addiction too?
It could be.
Okay.
It might not be as outwardly obvious.
Right.
But it's the same underlying principle.
Yeah.
We're clinging to familiar feelings, even if they're causing us pain.
Okay.
And Dr. Dispenza makes it very clear that constantly revisiting past traumas, dwelling in those negative emotions, actually keeps us stuck in the cycle.
So how do we escape that cycle? Is it even possible to break free from this emotional addiction? What does Dr. Dispenza suggest?
He emphasizes the importance of shifting our focus to the present moment.
Okay.
It's about learning to be comfortable with the unknown, with not knowing what's going to happen next.
Right.
Our brains are wired for survival.
Yeah.
So they want to predict the future based on past experiences.
Right.
But that keeps us locked in those old patterns.
Okay.
Yeah.
But easier said than done right. How do we actually train ourselves to be more present? It's like our minds are constantly racing, going over to-do lists or replaying conversations.
Yeah.
How do we quiet that noise?
Dr. Dispenza talks a lot about meditation.
Okay.
And he even gets into the science behind it,
Okay.
explaining how different brainwave states affect our experience.
Okay.
You've got beta, which is where we are most of the time, alert, busy, thinking.
Yeah.
Then there's alpha, a more relaxed state
Okay.
where we can be more creative and open to new ideas.
Interesting.
And then there's theta, a deep meditative state
Theta state.
where amazing things can happen.
Okay, now you've really piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
What happens in this mysterious theta state?
Dr. Dispenza suggests that in theta, the door between our conscious and subconscious minds
Okay.
swings wide open.
Wow.
we become highly suggestible to new information,
Okay.
which means we could start to reprogram those old limiting beliefs that are running on autopilot
Right.
in our subconscious.
So it's like we can actually rewire our brains.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
that's the idea.
But if we're honest, most of us spend very little time in those relaxed alpha and theta states, right?
That's right. But that's where the practice comes in.
Okay.
Dr. Dispenza says that through meditation,
Yeah.
we can train our minds to access these states more readily,
Okay.
to shift out of that busy beta state
Yeah.
and into a more peaceful, creative space.
And the more we practice,
Yeah,
the easier it becomes to access those states, not just during meditation,
absolutely.
but in our everyday lives.
That's it.
So we're literally changing the way our brains operate.
Yes,
That's fascinating.
it really is.
But I'm guessing it's not always easy.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges people face when they start trying to rewire their brains?
Yeah,
Does Dr. Dispenza address that?
he does.
Okay.
And he's very honest about the fact that this is a process, a journey,
Yeah.
and it can get uncomfortable at times.
Right.
He even uses the term biological death
Biological death.
to describe the shedding of our old selves.
Wow. What does he mean by that?
Think about it like this. When we start to change our thoughts and behaviors, our bodies actually go through a withdrawal process.
Oh, interesting.
Much like someone breaking a physical addiction.
Right.
We're so used to operating
Yeah.
from those old patterns
Right.
that even when we know they're not serving us,
Yeah.
there's a part of us that wants to cling to them.
Yeah, it's like our comfort zone, even if it's not actually that comfortable.
Exactly.
But how do we push through that resistance? What does Dr. Dispenza suggest?
He emphasizes the importance of repetition and practice.
Okay.
He even uses the phrase installing the hardware, which I love.
Interesting.
He's talking about literally creating new neural pathways in the brain
Okay.
that support the new identity we're creating.
Yeah.
But those pathways take time and effort to build.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. It's not a quick fix. It's about making a conscious decision to change.
Right.
Showing up every day and doing the work.
Yeah.
But what exactly does that work look like? Does Dr. Dispenza lay out a specific plan?
He does.
Okay, let's dive into that.
He has a 3-step process
Okay.
that he outlines, and I think it's brilliant in its simplicity.
All right, let's dive into those 3 steps.
Go
I'm
on.
ready to hear what Dr. Dispenza has to say
Yeah.
about how we can rewire our brains for change.
Okay.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are those 3 steps
Yeah.
to rewiring our brains for change?
The first step is awareness.
Okay.
It's about shining a light on those unconscious patterns, those habitual thoughts, reactions, and behaviors that are running on autopilot
Right.
in our subconscious.
Okay.
It's like, before we can change the program,
Right.
we need to know what the program is.
So it's like taking an inventory
Yeah,
of our mental and emotional baggage.
Exactly. And,
Ah.
sometimes this can be a little uncomfortable. It's not always fun to confront those shadows within ourselves.
Right.
But Dr. Dispenza emphasizes that this isn't about judgment.
Right.
It's about simply observing those patterns without getting swept away by them.
And once we've identified those patterns,
Yeah.
what's next? How do we actually start to change them?
That brings us to step 2, envisioning a new self.
Okay.
It's about getting clear on who we want to be,
Yeah.
what kind of life we want to create,
Okay.
and what qualities we want to embody.
So it's not enough to just say, I don't want to be anxious anymore.
Yeah.
We actually have to paint a picture of what a calm and peaceful version of ourselves
Yeah.
would look and feel like.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Dr. Dispenza emphasizes the importance of not just thinking about it, but feeling it.
Wow.
He says we need to emotionally embody that desired future,
Right.
to step into the feeling of
Yeah.
what it would be like to be that person,
Okay.
to live that life.
I can see how that would be powerful.
Yeah.
But isn't that just wishful thinking? How do we bridge the gap between where we are now and that ideal vision of ourselves?
That's where step 3 comes in. Emotionally embodying the change.
Right.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
Dr. Dispenza says that we need to start acting as if the change has already happened.
Oh, wow.
We need to start making choices, taking actions,
Right.
and showing up in the world as the person we want to become.
So it's like fake it till you make it,
Yes.
but with a deeper layer of emotional embodiment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not just about changing our behavior.
Right.
It's about shifting our internal state
Yes.
to align with that new reality.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of installing the hardware comes in.
Right.
Dr. Dispenza explains that when we repeatedly think, feel, and act in alignment with our desired future,
Okay.
We're actually creating new neural pathways in the brain.
So we're literally rewiring our brains for change.
That's it. Yep.
Okay, that's starting to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing this isn't a one-time thing, right? We can't just visualize ourselves being happy and successful once
Right.
and expect everything to magically change.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dr. Dispenza is very clear about the fact that this takes consistent effort and practice.
Okay.
He talks about the importance of repetition, of showing up every day and doing the work.
Right.
It's like building any new skill.
Yeah.
It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to step outside of our comfort zone.
You mentioned earlier
Yeah.
that this process can be uncomfortable.
Right.
What are some of the challenges people might encounter when they start implementing these 3 steps?
Well, as I mentioned before, there's the biological death of the old self.
Right.
Our bodies and minds are wired to resist change.
Yeah.
So when we start to shift those deeply ingrained patterns, we might experience some pushback.
Right.
This could manifest as anxiety, frustration, doubt, or even physical symptoms.
It's like our inner saboteur is
Yeah.
trying to convince us to go back to our old ways,
No.
even if we know they're not serving us. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where the real work comes in.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those voices of resistance and choosing to move forward anyway.
Right.
Dr. Dispenza encourages us to embrace the discomfort,
Yeah.
to trust the process,
Okay.
and to remember that we're not alone on this journey.
So it's about having compassion for ourselves,
Yeah.
knowing that it's okay to feel those difficult emotions, but not letting them derail us
Exactly.
from our ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Does Dr. Dispenza suggest any specific tools or techniques
Yeah, he does.
for dealing with those challenging moments?
He talks a lot about the power of meditation,
Okay.
breath work,
Yeah.
and meshing in nature.
Mm-hmm.
These practices can help us regulate our nervous systems,
Okay.
calm our minds,
Right.
and connect with a deeper sense of peace and presence.
Right.
He also emphasizes the importance of community,
Yeah.
of surrounding ourselves with supportive people who understand what we're going through.
It sounds like a holistic approach.
It is.
Addressing not just our thoughts, but our emotions, our bodies, and our social connections.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of Dr. Dispenza's work,
Okay.
the connection between the heart and the brain.
The heart-brain connection.
Yes.
Okay. I'm definitely intrigued. I know there's that saying, follow your heart,
Right.
but I've always thought of it as more of a metaphor.
Yeah.
Is there a literal connection between our hearts and our brains?
Absolutely. Dr. Dispenza explains that the heart actually sends more signals to the brain
Wow.
than the brain sends to the heart.
Okay.
And when our hearts are coherent,
Okay.
meaning our heart rate variability is balanced and rhythmic,
Right.
it creates a cascade of positive changes
Interesting.
throughout our entire system.
So when we talk about heart coherence,
Mhm.
we're not just talking about feeling happy or loving.
No.
We're talking about a measurable physiological state
It is, yes.
that has a direct impact on our brains.
Exactly.
Okay, and Dr. Dispenza's research has shown that heart coherence has some pretty amazing benefits.
Right.
It can reduce stress,
Yeah.
improve sleep,
Mm-hmm.
boost our immune system,
Yeah,
enhance creativity, and even improve our intuition.
absolutely.
Wow, this is blowing my mind.
It's really quite amazing.
So how do we cultivate this heart coherence?
Yeah.
Is it just a matter of thinking positive thoughts?
It's a bit more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Dr. Dispenza talks about the importance of cultivating feelings of gratitude, appreciation, and compassion.
Yeah.
He also recommends practices like breathwork and meditation,
Right.
which can help us shift into a more coherent state.
It's like we're training our hearts and brains to
Yes.
work together in harmony, creating this powerful synergy that can transform our lives.
That's the idea.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It's amazing, isn't it? And you know what's really fascinating is
Yeah.
that Dr. Dispenza believes that heart coherence is the key to unlocking our full potential, both individually and collectively.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. What does he say about the collective potential of heart coherence?
He talks about this idea of creating a global heart coherence,
Wow.
where large groups of people come together to meditate and radiate feelings of love, compassion, and peace.
Wow.
And he believes that this can actually shift the energetic field of the planet and create a more harmonious and sustainable world.
Wow, that's a powerful vision. It makes you wonder if we can rewire our individual brains for change.
Yeah.
Could we actually rewire the collective consciousness of humanity?
It's a fascinating question,
It is.
and one that Dr. Dispenza is actively exploring through his research.
Really?
He's actually conducting studies on the impact of group meditation
Wow.
on the global energetic field.
It's like we're talking about a real-life spiritual rave
Yeah.
where thousands of people come together to raise the vibration of the planet
Right.
with their collective heart energy.
It's a beautiful image, and one that speaks to the immense power
Yeah.
of human connection and intention.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem of trauma,
Yeah.
the power of presence, the importance of rewiring our brains,
Right.
and the incredible potential of heart coherence.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we should know about Dr. Dispenza's work?
Well, there's one more piece of the puzzle that we haven't touched on yet,
Okay.
and it's perhaps the most controversial and mind-blowing aspect of his teachings.
Okay.
He calls it creating from the quantum field.
Quantum field.
Very
Okay,
good.
now you're really speaking my language.
Right.
I've always been fascinated by quantum physics.
Yeah.
But I've never quite understood how it relates to personal growth.
Right.
Can you break it down for me?
In a nutshell, Dr. Dispenza believes that our thoughts and feelings actually have the power to influence reality.
Okay.
He suggests that we're not just passive observers in a predetermined universe,
Right.
but active creators
Oh.
who can shape our own destiny.
Wait, so you're saying we can manifest our desires just by thinking about them?
It's not quite that simple.
Okay.
Dr. Dispenza explains that it's not just about thinking about what we want,
Yeah.
but about embodying the feeling of having it already.
Interesting.
He says we need to shift our energetic vibration
Mm-hmm.
to match the frequency of our desires.
Okay, I'm following you. So if I want to manifest more abundance, for example,
Right.
it's not enough to just write down affirmations or visualize myself being wealthy.
Right.
I actually need to cultivate the feeling of abundance within myself
Yeah,
as if it's already a reality.
precisely.
Yeah.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Dr. Dispenza believes that when we do this,
Mm-hmm.
when we truly embody the feeling of our desires,
Okay.
we tap into the quantum field,
Right.
which
yeah.
is this infinite field of possibility
Okay.
that exists beyond the realm of our senses.
So it's like we're aligning ourselves with
Yeah.
the underlying fabric of reality,
Ex-
with the source of all creation.
Right.
And from that place, anything is possible.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And Dr. Dispenza emphasizes that this isn't just some new age concept.
Yeah.
He's actually backing up these ideas
Okay.
with scientific research.
Right.
He talks about studies showing that advanced meditators can actually influence matter with their minds.
Okay, that's pretty wild. So we're talking about people literally changing the physical world with their
Yes.
thoughts and feelings.
Exactly.
Okay.
And while most of us may not be at that level of mastery,
Right.
Dr. Dispenza believes that we all have the potential to tap into this power,
Oh,
to become conscious creators of our own reality.
I'm starting to understand why people are so drawn to Dr. Dispenza's work.
Yeah.
He's offering a whole new paradigm,
It is.
a new way of understanding ourselves and our place in the universe.
Exactly.
But I have to admit, this quantum field stuff is still a little mind-bending.
Yeah.
Can you give me a concrete example of how this works in real life?
Sure. Dr. Dispenza often talks about the importance of forgiveness.
Okay.
He believes that when we hold on to resentment,
Mm-hmm.
anger, or blame,
Right?
we're actually blocking the flow of energy in our lives.
So forgiveness isn't just a moral imperative.
Right.
It's actually an energetic practice
Yeah, it is.
that can impact our ability to manifest our desires.
Exactly. Dr. Dispenza explains that when we forgive someone,
Mm-hmm.
we're not condoning their actions.
Right.
We're simply choosing to release the negative emotions that are weighing us down.
Okay.
And when we do that,
Right.
we create space for new possibilities to emerge in our lives.
I like that.
Yeah, he tells this amazing story about Joshua, an Army veteran
Okay.
who was struggling with PTSD and addiction.
Wow.
Joshua attended one of Dr. Dispenza's retreats,
Okay.
and during a meditation exercise,
Mm-hmm.
he had a profound experience of forgiveness.
What happened? Did he forgive someone who had wronged him?
He forgave himself.
Oh, wow.
He realized that he'd been carrying around a lot of guilt and shame from his time in the military.
Okay.
And when he finally let go of those emotions,
Yeah.
he experienced a profound shift in his energy.
Wow.
He described it as his heart cracking wide open.
Wow. That's powerful.
It is.
So forgiveness is not just about letting go of anger towards others.
No.
It's also about letting go of the negative judgments we hold against ourselves.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting?
Yeah.
Dr. Dispenza explains that when we experience genuine forgiveness,
Mhm.
our brains actually release oxytocin, which is often called the love hormone.
Wow, so forgiveness is not just a mental or emotional process. It's
Mhm.
actually a biochemical event that has a positive impact on our physical bodies.
Yeah, it is.
Like we're literally rewiring our brains for compassion and love.
Precisely.
Oh.
And that's just one example of how Dr. Dispenza's work bridges the gap between science and spirituality.
Right.
He's showing us that there's a deep connection between our thoughts, our feelings, our bodies, and the world around us.
Okay, this is really starting to sink in so we can actually create our own reality by shifting our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
Right.
But what about all the things in life that we can't control? What about illness, loss, or other challenges that are seemingly beyond our influence?
That's a great question. And Dr. Dispenza acknowledges that life is full of unexpected twists and turns.
Right.
He's not suggesting that we can magically avoid all pain or suffering.
Right.
But he does believe that we have a choice in how we respond to those challenges.
So it's not about denying the reality of our experiences. It's about choosing to focus on the things we can control, like our thoughts and our attitude.
Exactly. And Dr. Dispenza believes that even in the midst of great difficulty, we can still choose to cultivate a sense of gratitude, peace, and presence.
Yeah.
He says that when we do this, we create a space for healing and transformation to occur.
Okay, that's really inspiring.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this into practice?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to talk about creating from the quantum field,
Right.
but how do we actually do it?
Dr. Dispenza offers a number of techniques for tapping into this power, including meditation, visualization, and gratitude practices. He also talks about the importance of aligning our actions with our desires.
So it's not just about sitting on a meditation cushion and visualizing our dream life.
Right.
It's about actually taking steps
That's right.
to move towards that vision.
Exactly. It's about creating coherence between our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
This is starting to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But if we're honest, most of us spend a lot of time feeling stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed.
Right.
How do we shift out of those negative states
Yeah.
and into a more positive and creative space?
That's where Dr. Dispenza's work on the human pharmacy comes in.
It's a human pharmacy, okay?
He poses this provocative question.
Okay.
Is it possible that the human nervous system manufactures a pharmacy of chemicals
Wow.
that works better than any drug?
Wait, so you're saying that we have the power to heal ourselves with our own thoughts and feelings?
That's exactly what Dr. Dispenza suggests.
That's incredible.
He talks about how our bodies are capable of producing all sorts of amazing chemicals, including endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin.
Yeah.
These chemicals can help us feel happy, relaxed, focused, and connected.
Right.
And he believes that we can consciously stimulate the production of these chemicals through our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors.
So it's like we have this inner pharmacy that's just waiting to be tapped into.
Exactly. And Dr. Dispenza's work is all about giving us the tools to access this innate healing power.
Okay, this is all starting to click for me.
Okay, good.
So we can change our brains, our bodies, and even our reality by shifting our thoughts, feelings, and actions.
That's it.
But what about the role of other people?
Does Dr. Dispenza talk about the importance of community and connection?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He emphasizes that we're not meant to do this work alone.
Right.
He believes that community is essential for supporting our growth and transformation.
Okay.
He even describes his retreats as spiritual raves.
Spiritual raves.
Where people come together to meditate, dance,
Oh, wow.
and connect with a higher power.
So it's like combining personal growth
Yeah.
with a sense of collective joy and celebration.
Exactly. And Dr. Dispenza believes that when we come together in this way,
Yeah.
we create a powerful, energetic field that amplifies our individual intentions and accelerates our healing.
It's like we're all part of a giant orchestra.
Yeah.
And when we tune our instruments together, we create a symphony of transformation.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about the problem of trauma, the power of presence.
Yeah. The importance of rewiring our brains.
Right.
The incredible potential of heart coherence.
Yeah.
The mind-blowing concept of creating from the quantum field. And the healing power of community.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we should know about Dr. Dispenza's work before we wrap up this deep dive?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Dr. Dispenza's work is not a quick fix or a magic bullet.
Right.
It's a journey of self-discovery and transformation that requires dedication,
Right.
perseverance, and a willingness to step outside of our comfort zone.
So it's not about achieving some kind of perfect state of enlightenment.
Right.
It's about embracing the process of growth and evolution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Dispenza emphasizes that this is an ongoing process, not a destination.
Right.
He encourages us to approach this work with a sense of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
playfulness, and a willingness to experiment.
It's like he's saying,
Yeah,
here are the tools, now go play in the sandbox of your own consciousness and see what you discover.
exactly. And that sense of playfulness is so important.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes we get so serious about personal growth that we forget to have fun with it.
It's like we turn it into another chore on our to-do list.
Right. But
Yeah.
Dr. Dispenza reminds us that this journey is meant to be joyful, expansive,
Right.
and life-affirming.
Okay, so let's say someone is listening to this
Mhm.
and they're feeling inspired to explore these ideas further.
Mm.
What would you recommend as a first step? Where do they even begin?
I think the most important thing is to start with self-awareness.
Okay.
Pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Notice the patterns that are no longer serving you,
Right.
and be gentle with yourself.
Okay.
This isn't about judgment or self-criticism.
Right.
It's about simply observing without getting swept away by those old stories.
So it's like becoming a detective of our own consciousness.
Exactly.
Looking for clues to understand how our minds work.
Yeah. And once you start to see those patterns,
Mhm.
you can begin to experiment with different tools and techniques for shifting them.
Right.
Dr. Dispenza talks about meditation, visualization, breath work, gratitude practices. There are so many options out there.
It's like we have a whole toolkit for personal transformation at our fingertips.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to try different things and see what works for you.
Right.
What resonates with one person might not resonate with another.
Right.
It's all about finding what feels good and supports your own unique journey.
And it's okay to start small, right?
Absolutely.
We don't have to overhaul our entire lives overnight.
Yeah, even just 5 or 10 minutes of meditation a day can make a difference.
Right.
Or start by incorporating more gratitude into your daily routine.
Okay.
Little by little, you'll begin to notice shifts in your energy,
Mhm.
your mood, and your overall outlook on life.
And I think it's important to remember that we're not alone on this journey.
No, you're not.
There are so many amazing resources and communities out there to support us.
You're right. Dr. Dispenza has an incredible community of people.
who are all exploring these ideas together.
Yeah.
And there are countless other teachers, books, podcasts,
Right.
and online platforms
Yeah.
dedicated to personal growth and transformation.
It's like we're all part of this collective awakening,
Yeah.
this movement towards greater consciousness and connection.
Exactly. And it's an exciting time to be alive.
It is.
The world is changing rapidly,
Yeah.
and we have the opportunity to be active participants in that change.
So what are we waiting for? Let's get out there and start rewiring our brain, cultivating heart coherence, and creating from the quantum field.
Right.
Who knows what's possible when we tap into our full potential?
That's what I'm saying with it. What stood out to you in this deep dive?
Well, honestly, the
Yeah.
thing that stood out to me the most was the statistic about 75 to 90% of our health issues being rooted in emotional stress.
Yeah. It's huge.
That was like a wake-up call for me.
Yeah.
You know, it really made me think about how much power our thoughts and feelings have over our physical well-being. Yeah, I agree.
And it also made me realize that I need to be more proactive about managing my stress levels.
Absolutely.
You know, like prioritizing self-care practices like meditation and spending time in nature.
It's so important.
Yeah. So what about you? What stood out to you the most?
Well, for me, it was the concept of emotional addiction.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that we can actually become addicted to our own negative emotions.
Mhm.
That was a real aha moment for me.
Yeah.
It made me realize that sometimes I might be unconsciously seeking out drama or conflict
Yeah.
because it gives me that familiar adrenaline rush,
Right.
even though it's not ultimately serving me.
Yeah. So how do we break free from that emotional addiction?
Well, Dr. Dispenza talks about the importance of shifting our focus to the present moment,
Right.
learning to be comfortable with the unknown,
Okay.
and not letting our past experiences dictate our future.
Yeah.
He also emphasizes the power of meditation and breath work
Okay.
for regulating our nervous systems and calming our minds.
Right.
So I think it's about becoming more aware of those patterns
Mhm.
and then consciously choosing to interrupt them.
Okay, so it's like we have the power to rewrite the script of our lives.
Exactly. We're not victims of our past.
Right.
We have the power to create a new future.
That's inspiring. Are you ready to explore the power of your own mind?
Absolutely. I think this deep dive has really opened my eyes to the possibilities.
Me too. And Dr. Dispenza reminds us that the human potential is vast,
Yeah.
and that the journey of transformation is a truly worthwhile endeavor.
Absolutely.
So where will your deep dive into personal change take you?
Well, I think for me, it's about continuing to cultivate self-awareness
Yeah.
and to practice those tools and techniques that Dr. Dispenza talks about, like
Right.
meditation, breath work, and visualization.
Yeah, and surrounding ourselves with supportive people.
Absolutely. Community is so important.
Yeah, and I think for me it's about remembering to approach this journey with a sense of playfulness and curiosity.
Yeah, that's key.
Not taking myself too seriously and allowing myself to make mistakes along the way.
Absolutely. It's all part of the process.
Yeah, so what are you waiting for?
Right?
What small step can you take today to start rewiring your brain and creating the life you truly desire?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Dr. Dispenza's work reminds us that we are all capable of extraordinary change.
Yes, we are.
So where will your journey take you?
Good question.
Yeah, it's like we have this incredible power within us,
Right.
but we've forgotten how to access it.
Exactly.
And Dr. Dispenza is reminding us of our own potential.
Yeah.
It's exciting and a little daunting at the same time.
It is, yeah. And
Yeah.
he doesn't shy away from the spiritual side of things either.
Right.
He even talks about God not in a religious sense, but as
Yeah.
this universal consciousness
Right.
we can tap into.
That makes sense, especially when he's talking about the quantum field and how we're all connected. It's
yeah.
like we're all part of this larger web of energy and information.
Yes.
But I can see how that might be elite for some people.
Definitely. But what I appreciate is that he presents these ideas in a way that's both grounded and expansive.
Right.
He's not asking us to blindly believe anything.
Right.
He's encouraging us to explore these concepts for ourselves to see what resonates.
It's like he's saying, here are the tools now. Go play in the sandbox of your own consciousness and see what you discover.
Exactly. And that sense of playfulness is so important.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes we get so serious about personal growth
Yeah.
that we forget to have fun with it.
It's like we turn it into another chore on our to-do list.
Right.
Yeah.
But Dr. Dispenza reminds us that this journey is meant to be joyful, expansive,
Yeah.
and life-affirming.
Okay, so let's say someone is listening to this and they're feeling inspired to
Mhm.
explore these ideas further. What would you recommend as a first step?
I think
Where do they even begin?
the most important thing is to start with self-awareness.
Okay.
Pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. Notice the patterns that are no longer serving you,
Mm-hmm.
and be gentle with yourself.
Okay.
This isn't about judgment or self-criticism.
Great.
It's about simply observing without getting swept away by those old stories.
So it's like becoming a detective of our own consciousness,
Exactly.
looking for clues to understand how our minds work.
Yeah, and once you start to see those patterns,
Mm,
you can begin to experiment with different tools and techniques for shifting them.
okay.
Dr. Dispenza talks about meditation, visualization, breath work, gratitude practices.
Right.
There are so many options out there.
It's like we have a whole toolkit for personal transformation at our fingertips.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to try different things and see what works for you.
Yeah.
What resonates with one person might not resonate with another.
Right.
It's all about finding what feels good and supports your own unique journey.
And it's okay to start small, right?
Absolutely.
We don't have to overhaul our entire lives overnight.
No, even just 5 or 10 minutes of meditation a day
Right.
can make a difference.
Right.
Or start by incorporating more gratitude into your daily routine.
Okay.
Little by little, you'll begin to notice shifts in your energy, your mood, and your overall outlook on life.
And I think it's important to remember that we're not alone on this journey.
No.
There are so many amazing resources and communities out there to support us.
That's right. Dr. Dispenza has an incredible community of people
Right.
who are all exploring these ideas together.
Right.
And there are countless other teachers, books, podcasts, and online platforms dedicated to personal growth and transformation.
It's like we're all part of this collective awakening,
It is, yes.
this movement towards greater consciousness and connection.
Exactly. And it's an exciting time to be alive.
Mhm.
The world is changing rapidly, and we have the opportunity to be active participants in that change.
So what are we waiting for? Let's get out there and start rewiring our brains, cultivating heart coherence, and creating from the quantum field. Who knows what's possible when we tap into our full potential?
And what stood out to you in this deep dive? Are you ready to explore the power of your own mind? Dr. Dispenza reminds us that the human potential is vast, and that the journey of transformation is a truly worthwhile endeavor. Where will your deep dive into personal change take you?